Well, I know somebody who is running for Secretary of State.
That's right. We both know somebody who's running for Secretary of State, and her name is Kim Crockett. Good morning, Kim.
Hey, good morning, guys. How are you?
Doing good. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
So, talk a little bit about this. We hadn't heard of this yet. However, election job openings apparently, and they're asking for Hennepin and Ramsey County judges to be vaccinated as a job requirement. These are election day election judges being required to be vaxxed.
These are not election day judges.
Okay.
We're hoping it doesn't spread to that.
Okay.
These are ballot board judges.
Gotcha.
We've all talked in the past about how Steve Simon has given the counties permission to exclude citizens from those ballot boards, right? This is why it matters. 58% of the vote in 2020 was by absentee ballot. And over the last decade or so, the Democrats have moved us from voting in person to voting early and voting by absentee, thereby driving 6 out of 10 votes in 2020 to these ballot boards. And he's told the county auditors who run the boards, oh, you don't have to have citizen judges if you don't want to. You can just hire your own staff or anybody else you feel like. Now what the counties are doing is saying, well, if you do get hired by us as a citizen to work on these ballot boards, you have to be fully vaccinated. So they're applying the same employment rules to temporary election workers, if you will, that they do to their own employees.
But
and why does that matter? Well, guess about the impact on Republicans that would apply for these temporary election jobs, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does seem like it would tend to favor the more left-leaning members of our community.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, the Supreme Court in Minnesota just said recently that you have to have citizens on the ballot boards at least to compare signatures for absentee ballots. You know, you apply for one and you sign an application. And then when your ballot comes in, if there's a problem with the signature, you have to have election judges to look at that. And the Supreme Court said those election judges need to meet something called the party balance rule, where you have a Republican and a Democrat sitting there at the table looking at those signatures, right? With this requirement, it's going to make it a lot tougher for Republicans to serve. And I'm fully expecting that Hennepin and Ramsey, being the two most populous counties, are going to start a trend with the other counties in the state. So what's the solution? I mean, let's step back and look at the big picture. The left wants us to vote by mail. That's what Steve Simon tried to get in 2020. He went to the legislature and said, oh, my God, we're all going to die if we go vote in person, right? Well, the legislature wouldn't let him shift us to an all-mail state, which is where, in my opinion, a lot of the chaos and a lot of the problems and fraud occur. So what's the solution? If you're listening to this and thinking, okay, Kim, what do I do about this? Mm-hmm. Well, the solution is to return to in-person voting. You can either vote on election day or you can vote in that week before Election Day. It's called direct balloting. You can go to your city hall.
Yeah, but that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen this cycle. I mean, we know that, right? I mean, there's not going to be. There's going to be a lot of voting by mail done in this cycle, which is why it's, crucial to have this conversation about who is getting chosen to sift through all of those mailed in ballots to make sure that ones that have problems or ones that appear to be fraudulent or, ones that shouldn't be counted aren't counted, basically. Exactly.
Well, Simon is doing everything he can to interrupt that, and that's why this vaccination requirement is so it's outrageous.
Well, it's astonishing that we're still doing. It's astonishing that we're still pushing this. It's astonishing they're still using this as an excuse. But as a quick little anecdote, I was listening to a movie podcast this morning, and there was a woman on there talking about going to this event, and she said, but thankfully, with so many people that are vaccinated now, I feel safer. And I was just like pulling one little hair I had on my head out going, do you not understand? People have bought into this notion that if you're vaccinated, you can't spread it around. And, again, we don't need to divert into the details of that, but I can't believe that they're still actually perpetuating this "you must be vaccinated" garbage.
Well, and they're running out of runway legally on the issue too. So what I'm doing is exploring litigation, which I'm never excited about in the state of Minnesota because, most of the judges now have been appointed by Dayton or Walz, and they have a bias, frankly, in favor of these sorts of policies. But the vaccination requirement is popping up in blue cities and blue counties all over the country, even in red states like Arizona. And so I'm exploring, the possibility of some multi-state litigation here. But I'm not a huge fan of litigation as a solution, which is why I look elsewhere. The problem for legislation this year is that, the Republicans only control the Senate. There will be language, I'm told, that excludes these temporary election personnel from the requirement in the election omnibus bill that comes out of the Minnesota Senate. But will that get to Walz's desk? So that's why I'm looking around and saying, what else can we do as citizens to thwart this attempt to exclude Republicans from the ballot boards? And part of it is just don't vote absentee.
Yeah. What advice would you give somebody listening who is hearing this and thinking, maybe I will try to get on one of these ballot boards, or maybe I will try to get involved in the process of selecting election judges and things along those lines? Where would they go, and where would be a good starting point for them?
Two places. You go to the Republican Party. If you're a Republican, you go to the Republican Party and sign up. It's under their election security. You can also go to my website, kimsos.com. And the link right at the top, very, very top of my website, is where you go to sign up to be an election judge with the Republican Party. I don't sign up Democrats. They can take care of that themselves. The other thing you can do is call your county or go online at your county and sign up. Don't give up on this. Yeah. This may get resolved. Please do. We need an army. You guys were talking about the Virginia plan yesterday, and the gal you had on from the RNC was interesting, but one of the things she totally missed was that we think that the state was flipped from blue to red because they covered the polls. Republicans showed up for the first time, big time, and covered the polls. And it's a little bit more challenging here in Minnesota because of Steve Simon, our Secretary of State, but it still can be done. So don't give up. Sign up. It'll attract the kind of national resources we need to win. So thank you for asking that.
Yeah, and Kim,
can I
go ahead.
Yeah,
quick.
Can I comment on something you guys were talking about before I came on?
Sure, go ahead.
Hillary's lawyer, Andrew Sussman, was indicted for lying to the FBI about the Steele dossier. His law partner is a guy named Mark Elias. I've told you about him before. That's the guy who's been working with our Secretary of State, Steve Simon, to change our election laws without the nuisance of legislation. He's the guy that came in here in 2020 and extended our election by 7 days, waived major protections of absentee ballots. That's him. He's Andrew Sussman's law partner. Or was.
Well, Kim, I just want to say, it's your attention to little details like this, like, the vaccination requirements for election judges and ballot board members and things along those lines, that will make you a fantastic Secretary of State. And that's why I'm really glad you're running, because it's not just about, everybody focuses on issues and turnout and how can we sway those mushy independents to our side and this and that, but not enough people focus on the process. And the process is just as important as the turnout. The process is just as important as everything else. And that's where the left has been able to make gains sort of under the radar and give them unfair advantages in the elections that we've had for the last few cycles. It's because of the process that you're talking about right now. So thank you for your focus on it. Thank you for your attention on it. Again, it's Kim Crockett running for Secretary of State. You can go to kimsos.com to learn more, and we look forward to having you back on the show soon.
Thank you. Look forward to it.
Absolutely. Take care.